lesson here at English Pod. My name is Marco.
And my name is Catherine. So, Marco, today we've got a little bit of an unusual lesson because we're talking about hypothetical situations.
Right, we're talking about a unreal situation or something that may happen or may not happen.
Okay, so you're going to hear all about this in today's dialogue. We're going to hear it a couple of times. When we come back, we'll be breaking it down for you so you know all about these great phrases and how to talk about not real situations with your friends.
Okay, next question. If Eric asked you out on a date, what would you say?
Duh, I would say yes. Eric is the most popular kid in school. Okay, my turn. What would you do if you won the lottery?
Let's see. If I won the lottery, I would buy 2 tickets for a trip around the world.
If you buy me a ticket, I'll go with you for sure.
My dad would freak out if I even mention a trip like that.
All right, this is a good one. What would your mom say if you told her that you're going to get married?
If I told her that, she would faint and have me committed.
All right, so I think that was clear and, well, a very common situation. 2 teenage girls talking to each other about, boys and what would you do and da-da-da.
Guys do this too, so don't just put this on the girls, okay?
I don't think we do it like this, though.
No, but it's actually a very popular game in the car to play, the what if game.
The what if game,
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's exactly the topic that we want to talk about today is the structure what if, which is actually called a conditional.
All right, so conditional because the result, the thing that happens, depends on something else.
Exactly.
So let's actually take a look at the words in today's language takeaway before we talk about all this grammar stuff.
Language takeaway.
Okay, so we'll start out with some basic words. Well, they were talking about guys, and she said if Eric asked you out. Right? So to ask somebody out.
Okay, so this might be a little bit strange because you think, okay, to ask is to ask a question. But to ask out, it's a fixed phrase. It's something you say. These 2 words go together, right? So I want to ask someone out. It means I want to invite someone on a date.
On a romantic date, usually.
So yeah, I want to ask him out to dinner, or he asked me out to the movies.
Now, if I didn't want to ask somebody out on a romantic date, what verb would you use?
I'd say you could invite someone out, but then again, it's always a little bit, you can say invite for someone if you're going to ask them on a date too. So
Yeah.
I'd say to ask out is always romantic, and to invite can be romantic or just friends.
Okay, so to ask somebody out. Now, they were talking about other situations. Maybe they would go on a trip or something. And she said, my dad would freak out.
This is a great phrase. And this is something that I used a lot when I was a teenager.
The word freak out?
Freak out. So the verb to freak out means to be really angry or upset, or, it could be a good thing or a bad thing. But usually when we're talking about our parents, it's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing. So they get angry. They start yelling at you.
Yeah, so
freak out
means like overreact.
All right. And the last word that we have on language takeaway today is committed.
Well, let's look at the whole phrase. He says, she would have me committed. So this is actually being done to someone.
Now, we did look at this word before, but basically for marriage, right? To commit to somebody, to promise.
Yeah, but to have someone committed means that you're going to send them away to maybe a mental institution.
Exactly.
So this means they have psychological problems and someone else sends them to the hospital because they can't send themselves.
Exactly. So it's always used to have someone committed, right?
Right, because it's being done to them. They don't want it to happen. It's involuntary.
Okay. So she had him committed.
My mom's going to have me committed if I keep working 20 hours a day.
Exactly. So that's the way you use it. And so now you have another way of using this verb. But now I think we should listen to this dialogue again. We're going to slow it down a little bit, and then we'll come back and look at this grammar focus that we want to talk about.
Okay, next question. If Eric asked you out on a date, what would you say?
Duh, I would say yes. Eric is the most popular kid in school. Okay, my turn. What would you do if you won the lottery?
Let's see. If I won the lottery, I would buy 2 tickets for a trip around the world.
If you buy me a ticket, I will go with you for sure.
My dad would freak out if I even mention a trip like that.
All right, this is a good one. What would your mom say if you told her you were going to get married?
If I told her that, she would faint and have me committed.
All right, so we understood all the vocab now. Now let's take a look at these unreal situations and what we were saying, the what if game.
Right, so I think it's important to push these into 2 different categories, right? We have one kind where it's very unrealistic. It's probably not going to happen, that kind of situation. And the other one is a situation that could very well happen, something that's probably very common. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about is very unrealistic situations, things that probably won't happen.
Okay, so let's take a look at an example that we found in the dialogue. The most common one, and I think everybody gets asked this question, is if you won the lottery, what would you do?
Okay, if you won the lottery. So this is a situation that's very uncommon, right? Not many people win the lottery. So we have to say, if you won the lottery. So we use this verb in the past tense. If you won the lottery, if this happened, what would you do?
Right.
All
So,
right.
Catherine, if you won the lottery, what would you do?
If I won the lottery, I would buy a boat and sail around the world with my friends.
All right. So another example, again, using the same structure, right? The verb in the simple past tense, we would say, if you were stuck on an island with one other person, who would that be?
All right. So if you were stuck on a desert island with one person, who would that person be? So Marco, I'm going to ask you, who would it be?
I think it would be an engineer or a scientist that could probably get me off the island.
What about your girlfriend?
No, well, that's the point. If I can get to her quicker.
Oh, okay. I would say maybe kind of romantic, but kind of not. So that's the first situation. We've got these situations like being stuck on an island, winning the lottery. These are very unlikely. But what about the other kind?
But before we move on to that, you notice that we used the verb was. We didn't say if I was on an island. I said if I were, right? Or if you were. So this is the way that you use it in these conditionals. If I were you, or if you were president of the United States.
Yeah, this is a rule. So this is a grammar rule. We're not going to describe why it happens because it's very, very complicated and you can look it up on our site, but we're going to describe how to use it. That's the most important. So we can say, for example, Marco, if I were you, I would dye my hair red.
Why?
I don't know. I think it would look cool.
I don't think so.
So if I were you, I would. Or if you were me, what would you do?
Exactly. So we always use it like this, right? If you're going to use this conditional, always use were for the subject, never was.
Right. So you can tell. This is a very, very big grammar issue. A lot of English speakers make this mistake.
Yes, very many. So, but now you know that you shouldn't make this mistake and you can speak properly. All right. So now that we've seen these semi-unreal situations, let's move on to something that's a little bit more probable, that it may happen.
Right, so we've got these situations that are common or likely. For example, in this lesson we hear, I will go with you for sure. So this is, if you buy me a ticket to travel, of course I will go with you. So if you buy, this is in the present tense, if you buy, then I will.
Right.
Right.
So now you notice the difference. The verb is in the present, and then we use, instead of would, we use will. So again, I can say, if it rains tomorrow, I will stay home and watch TV all day.
Okay, so think about this. Before we talked about going to desert islands. Now we're talking about rain and the weather. They're very, very different. The rain is very common. So we can say, if it rains tomorrow, I will need an umbrella. What about this? If we have lunch tomorrow, what will we eat?
So we have lunch pretty much every day, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So again, it's a situation that is very probable. So if we have lunch tomorrow, we will probably eat I don't know, pasta, I think. I'm
Yeah.
feeling like pasta tomorrow.
Pasta,
Yeah.
some noodles.
Yeah.
All right, so Marco, let's take another listen to some of these phrases and try and figure out, while you're listening, which kind of conditional it is, first or the second.
Example 1.
If it's sunny today, we will go to the park.
Example 2.
I would get a divorce if I were you.
Example 3.
Mary will be very sad if Joe leaves.
Example 4.
We wouldn't be so late if Nick drove faster.
Very good. So we heard different examples, and the first conditional is the one that we mentioned is very probable, and the second conditional is the one that's not so probable. So they're very easy to distinguish. You don't really need to know the names, just know how to use them, right?
Exactly. And so just remember, if you were me, what would you do? We've got these kind of pairs, these words that go together. And the other one is more common. It's if it rains tomorrow, I will bring an umbrella.
Perfect. So why don't we listen to this dialogue for the last time, just to kind of reinforce everything, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more.
Okay, next question. If Eric asked you out on a date, what would you say?
Duh. I would say yes. Eric is the most popular kid in school. Okay, my turn. What would you do if you won the lottery?
Let's see. If I won the lottery, I would buy 2 tickets for a trip around the world.
If you buy me a ticket, I'll go with you for sure.
My dad would freak out if I even mention a trip like that.
All right, this is a good one. What would your mom say if you told her that you're going to get married?
If I told her that, she would faint and have me committed.
So, Marco, if we talk any more about grammar, someone's going to have me committed.
It is a little bit difficult to talk about grammar, especially on a podcast, because it's such a difficult topic and it's also kind of heavy, right?
It is, but I'll tell you this. These are very, very common phrases. People use these all the time. We talk in hypotheticals very often.
Yeah.
So if you're asking for advice, for example, or if you're just playing a game in the car, you're going to encounter these, and it's very important to be able to know how to use them.
What if animals could talk? Imagine waking up one day and everything is different. You open your eyes, stretch, and suddenly you hear a voice. But it is not from a person, it is from your pet. Your dog looks at you and says, "Good morning. I'm hungry. Can we have breakfast now?" At first, you might feel surprised or even a little shocked. Animals have always made sounds barking, meowing, chirping, but now they use words just like humans. What would life be like if animals could talk? Would the world become a better place, or would it become more complicated? If animals could talk, everything around us might change. Imagine walking through a park. The birds in the trees could greet you by saying, "Hello." It's a beautiful day, isn't it? Squirrels could run past you and say, "We're busy collecting nuts for winter." Even insects like bees could buzz around and say, "Please be careful. We're working here." The world would be much louder, but it could also be more interesting. Every animal would have a voice, and they might tell us things we never knew before. One big change could happen at home. Right now, when your cat meows, you guess what it wants. Is it hungry? Does it want to play? If your cat could talk, there would be no more guessing. It might say, "I want to sit on your lap," or "I don't like that new food. Please give me something else." Dogs might talk even more. They could tell you about their day while you are at work. "I chased a bird in the yard," or "I missed you while you were gone." It might feel like living with a friend who never stops talking. If farm animals could talk, life on farms would be very different. Imagine a cow saying, "Please don't take my milk," or a chicken saying, "I don't feel like laying eggs today." Would farmers still treat animals the same way? Maybe people would feel bad and change how they get food. If animals shared their feelings, would we still eat meat, or would people become vegetarians? Perhaps cows would ask for better living conditions, and chickens might ask for more space to walk around. If animals had a voice, humans might need to listen carefully and make big changes. Wild animals would also have many things to say. In the forest, a deer might warn people, "Be careful. Hunters are nearby." A lion in the jungle could say, "This is my land. Please stay away." Maybe animals would ask humans to protect their homes. They might say, "Please stop cutting down trees," or "Don't throw trash in the ocean." If animals could tell us about their problems, people might work harder to protect nature. We could understand their world better, and perhaps humans and animals could live in peace. But talking animals could also cause problems. Imagine walking outside and hearing hundreds of animals talking at the same time. It might become too noisy. Insects could complain about people stepping on them, and pigeons might argue over breadcrumbs. Would people still like animals if they talked all the time? Some animals might not be very polite. A cat could say, "You are in my way," or a seagull might shout, "Give me your sandwich." It could be funny at first, but it might become tiring if animals talk too much. There's also a question about animal secrets. What if your pet knows things about you? Imagine your dog telling your friends, "My owner dances in the living room when no one is watching," or a cat saying, "My owner talks to their plants every day." Animals see and hear many things, and if they could speak, they might share everything they know. Would people become more careful around their pets? Or would it be fun to have an animal friend to share secrets with? If animals could talk, scientists might learn amazing things. Whales and dolphins could describe their life in the deep ocean. Birds could explain how they fly across the world during migration. Even small creatures, like ants, could teach us how they work together. We could ask animals questions that humans cannot answer. What does the world look like to a bee? How does a fish feel when it swims in the sea? There is so much that humans do not understand, and talking animals could help us learn new things about life on Earth. It is fun to imagine a world where animals can talk. Some things might become easier, like understanding what your pet wants. Other things might become harder, like hearing complaints from every bird, squirrel, and insect around you. Life would definitely change, but would it be better or more difficult? No one really knows. If you could talk to any animal, which one would you choose? What questions would you ask? And what do you think it would say? What if time travel was possible? Imagine waking up one day and discovering that time travel is real. You could go back to the past or visit the future. What would you do first? Would you visit a famous moment in history, meet people from long ago, or explore what life will be like in 100 years? If time travel were possible, life might become more exciting, but also more complicated. The world as we know it would change in many ways, and people would need to be very careful with their new power. If people could travel to the past, there would be many possibilities. Imagine stepping into a time machine and choosing a date hundreds of years ago. You could walk through ancient cities, see how people lived, and experience life before modern technology. You might meet famous historical figures. Perhaps you could have a conversation with Leonardo da Vinci, watch the pyramids being built, or listen to a speech by Martin Luther King Jr. Seeing history with your own eyes would be very different from reading about it in books. You could learn the truth about events that no one fully understands today. Were the stories we know correct? Or have some things been forgotten or misunderstood over time? But traveling to the past could also be dangerous. Imagine accidentally changing something small, like moving an object or talking to someone who wasn't supposed to meet you. Even a tiny action might change the future in unexpected ways. If you stopped a historical event from happening, the present might become unrecognizable when you returned. For example, if you prevented an important invention, would people today live without it? If you warned someone about a future disaster, would you save lives or create new problems? Time travelers would have to be very careful not to change the world by mistake. Some people might want to travel back and fix their personal mistakes. Imagine going back to a day when you said the wrong thing or made a bad decision. Would you change what you did? If you could fix a mistake, would it make your life better, or would it change who you are? Perhaps mistakes help people learn and grow. If you erased every mistake, would life become easier, or would it lose its meaning? And if many people traveled back to change their own pasts, the world might become chaotic. Everyone's actions would affect others in ways that are difficult to predict. Traveling to the future might be just as exciting, but also mysterious. What would the world look like in 100, 500, or 1,000 years? You could see new inventions, discover advanced technology, and learn how people live. Maybe there would be flying cars, robot friends, or cities on other planets. You could find out if humans solve problems like climate change, disease, or poverty. Would the future be a wonderful place with peace and happiness? Or would it be full of new challenges we cannot imagine today? Visiting the future might also bring personal temptations. Imagine seeing your future self. Would you want to know if you are happy, successful, or in love? Some people might want to know when and how they will die. But would knowing the future really make life better? If you learned something sad, would you spend your days worrying about it? If you saw a happy future, would you stop working hard because you already know things will turn out well? Sometimes, not knowing what will happen makes life more exciting and meaningful. Time travel could also create serious problems between people. Some might use it for good to cure diseases, stop wars, or save lives. Others might use it for selfish reasons, like becoming rich or powerful. Imagine a person traveling to the past to collect gold or rare objects. They could bring those things back to the present and become very wealthy. If someone traveled to the future and stole advanced technology, they could use it to control others. Who would decide how people use time travel? Would there be rules, or would the world become chaotic as people changed history for their own benefit? Another question is whether people would still value the present if time travel existed. If you could always visit the past or future, would you stop appreciating today? Some people might live in their favorite time instead of experiencing their real lives. Others might use time travel to escape problems instead of facing them. Life might lose its beauty if people could always go somewhere else. The present moment is special because it only happens once, but if time travel were real, would that feeling disappear? There is also the mystery of meeting yourself. What if you traveled back and saw your younger self? Would you give yourself advice or try to change your life's path? Or imagine meeting your older self in the future, what would you ask? Would you want to know if your dreams come true? Or would you rather let life surprise you? Seeing yourself at different ages might be comforting, or it might be strange and confusing. Would you still feel like the same person if you knew everything about your past and future? Time travel might bring both opportunities and dangers. It could help people learn from the past and prepare for the future. It could allow us to fix mistakes or explore new possibilities. But it could also create chaos, confusion, and conflict. If time travel were possible, would people use it wisely, or would they create new problems that are impossible to fix? What do you think? If you had a time machine, would you travel to the past, the future, or stay in the present? What moment in history would you like to visit and why? Or would you rather let time move naturally, enjoying life one day at a time? What if humans could live forever? Imagine a world where humans never grow old and never die. If people could live forever, everything we know about life would change. Right now, life has a beginning, a middle, and an end. People are born, grow up, experience life, and eventually pass away. But what if there was no end? What if humans could live forever, staying young and healthy for hundreds or even thousands of years? At first, this idea might sound wonderful. No one would lose loved ones, and everyone could have as much time as they wanted. But if we think more deeply, Living forever could bring both incredible possibilities and difficult problems. If people never aged or died, they would have endless time to explore life. You could follow every dream without worrying about running out of time. Want to travel the world? You could visit every country, every city, and every hidden place on Earth. You could learn every language, play every musical instrument, or master every skill. With unlimited time, you could study science, art, and history in depth. Imagine spending 100 years learning medicine and then another 100 years studying space. There would be no limit to what you could achieve. Mistakes would not feel so serious because you would always have time to try again. Living forever might also mean never losing the people you love. Families would stay together for centuries. Friends would never have to say goodbye. Relationships would have time to grow deeper and stronger. Imagine celebrating your 300th birthday with your loved ones still by your side. People would not feel the pain of losing their parents, children, or friends. Everyone could share endless moments together, making memories that would last forever. But would living forever really be perfect? If no one dies, the world could become very crowded. Right now, people are born, live their lives, and then make space for future generations. If no one died, the population would keep growing. Cities might become too full, and there might not be enough space for everyone. Food, water, and other resources could become limited. Would people still have children if the world became too crowded? Governments might make rules about who could have babies, and that could cause new problems. Another question is whether life would lose its meaning if it never ended. Part of what makes life special is that it is short and precious. People work hard, chase dreams, and treasure special moments because time is limited. If life had no end, would people still feel motivated? Would birthdays still feel important if you had already celebrated 500 of them? Would love and friendship feel as special if you knew they could last forever? Maybe people would stop caring about time because they would always have more of it. Emotions might also change if humans lived forever. Right now, people feel sadness when they lose someone, or happiness when they achieve something important. But if nothing ever ends, would those feelings become weaker? If you knew you could always see someone again, would you value your time with them as much? If you could always try again, would success feel as exciting? The beauty of life may come from its limits without those limits. Feelings could become less powerful and meaningful. There could also be social problems if some people lived forever while others did not. Imagine if only rich people could afford to live forever while others still aged and died. Society might become divided between those who never grow old and those who do. Would it be fair if some people had endless time while others did not? People who live forever might become more powerful, controlling businesses, governments, and resources for centuries. This could create inequality and conflict. Living forever might also make people afraid to take risks. Right now, people accept some dangers because life is already limited. But if you could live forever, would you take any risks at all? Would people still want to climb mountains, travel to space, or try new things if they were afraid of losing eternal life? Fear of death might disappear, but a new fear losing immortality could replace it. Another question is whether people would become bored after living for centuries. There are many things to do in life, but if you had infinite time, would you still enjoy them? After 500 years, would food still taste delicious? Would music still sound beautiful? If you had seen every sunset and visited every place, would anything still feel exciting? Perhaps life would become repetitive, and people would lose their curiosity. Some might even wish for an end after living for so long. And what about the planet itself? Earth has limited resources: clean water, fresh air, and land for people to live on. If no one ever died, humans might use those resources too quickly. Forests could disappear, oceans could become polluted, and animals could lose their homes. Earth might struggle to support billions of people living forever. Would humans need to find new planets to live on? Or would they have to change how they live to protect the Earth? There is also the question of identity. If you lived forever, would you still be the same person after 1,000 years? People change as they grow, but over centuries, those changes might be even greater. Your memories could fade, and your experiences might shape you into someone completely different. Would your past self still feel connected to your future self? Or would living forever mean becoming someone new again and again? Living forever sounds like a dream, but it also brings many questions. Would endless time make life better or more complicated? Would people be happier, or would they lose the things that make life meaningful? If you had the choice, would you want to live forever, or would you rather live a natural life with a beginning, middle, and end? What do you think? If you could live forever, what would you do with all that time? Would you enjoy exploring the world, learning new things, and staying with your loved ones? Or would you worry about the problems eternal life might bring? Would living forever make life better, or would it take away the things that make life special? What if we could live on other planets? Imagine a future where humans no longer live only on Earth. Instead, people travel across space and build homes on other planets. You could wake up one morning not on Earth, but on Mars, Jupiter's moons, or even a planet in another galaxy. The idea of living on other planets is exciting. It could open new possibilities for human life. But it also brings many challenges and questions. What would life be like on another planet? How would it change the way we live, think, and understand the universe? If humans could live on other planets, it might start with our closest neighbor Mars. Scientists already study Mars and dream of building homes there. Mars is very different from Earth. It has a thin atmosphere, no liquid water on the surface, and extreme cold temperatures. If people lived on Mars, they would need special buildings to protect them from the harsh environment. These buildings might be giant domes filled with air to breathe. People would wear spacesuits outside and grow food inside these protective homes. Life would be much harder than on Earth, but it could also be an exciting adventure. Living on other planets could solve some problems on Earth. Right now, Earth's population is growing, and natural resources are limited. If people could live on other planets, there would be more space and resources. Imagine moving to a new planet where there is room for new cities, new farms, and new opportunities. Earth's environment is also facing serious challenges, like climate change and pollution. If some people lived on other planets, it might help reduce the pressure on Earth and give the planet time to heal. However, living on other planets would also create new problems. One major challenge is the distance between planets. Mars is millions of kilometers away, and other planets are even farther. Traveling to a new planet could take months or even years. If you move to another planet, you might never see Earth or your loved ones again. Communication would also be slow. On Earth, a message can travel instantly. But between planets, sending a message could take minutes, hours, or even days. Would people on different planets still feel connected to each other, or would they feel lonely and separated? Another challenge is adapting to different environments. Earth is perfectly designed for human life. We have oxygen to breathe, water to drink, and sunlight to keep us warm. Other planets are not so welcoming. For example, Mars is cold and dusty with low gravity, while Venus is extremely hot with poisonous air. Humans would need advanced technology to survive. Scientists might even need to change the surfaces of planets, adding air and water to make them more like Earth. This process, called terraforming, could take hundreds or thousands of years. Would humans have the patience to transform other planets? Or would they always feel like visitors in a strange place? Life on other planets could also change human society. Right now, everyone lives on the same planet, sharing resources and cultures. If people spread across different planets, would we still feel like one human family? Imagine a future where Mars has its own government and laws, while Earth has different rules. People might start to see themselves as Martians or Earthlings, leading to new conflicts. If humans settled many planets, some places might become rich and powerful, while others remained poor. Would people work together across planets? Or would they become divided by distance and differences? Living on other planets could also affect how we experience time. On Earth, we measure time by the sun's movement, 24 hours in a day, 365 days in a year. Other planets have different cycles. For example, a day on Mars is 24 hours and 37 minutes, while a year lasts 687 Earth days. On Jupiter, a day is only 10 hours long, and a year is almost 12 Earth years. If you lived on a different planet, how would you celebrate birthdays or holidays? Would time feel different if the days and nights were longer or shorter? People might need to create new calendars and ways of measuring time to fit life on new worlds. Another interesting question is how living on other planets could change our bodies. Human bodies are adapted to Earth's gravity, but other planets have stronger or weaker gravity. On Mars, gravity is only about 1/3 of Earth's. If you lived on Mars for many years, your muscles and bones might become weaker because they would not have to work as hard. On a planet with stronger gravity, your body would feel heavier, and movement would be harder. Over time, humans living on different planets might physically change to adapt to their environments. Would people from different planets still look the same after many generations? Or would they become new types of humans? Living on other planets might also affect how we think about the universe. For most of history, humans believed Earth was the center of everything. If people lived on other planets, that idea would change forever. The universe is huge, with billions of stars and planets. If we could live on one new planet, why not live on many? Humans might explore farther and farther, always searching for new worlds to call home. Would people ever find intelligent life on other planets? If we met alien beings, how would it change the way we see ourselves? There is also a question about who would decide how new planets are used. Right now, countries on Earth compete for land and resources. If humans traveled to other planets, would these same conflicts continue? Would rich countries control space? Or would there be fair rules for everyone? Some people believe space should belong to all humanity, while others think it will be a new area for business and profit. Who would be responsible if something went wrong on a new planet? Would people work together to protect space environments? Or would they damage other planets the way Earth has been damaged? Despite the challenges, many people dream of living on other planets. It represents human curiosity and the desire to explore the unknown. If we could live beyond Earth, it might prove that there are no limits to what humans can achieve. But it also raises deep questions. What does it mean to call a place home? Would living on other planets bring humanity together or push us apart? Would we find new hope among the stars? Or would we bring Earth's problems with us wherever we go? What do you think? Would you want to live on another planet if you had the chance? What kind of life would you imagine for yourself in a distant world? Would humans become better as we explore the universe? Or would we face new challenges we cannot yet imagine? Perhaps one day, living on other planets will not be science fiction, but a new reality for future generations.
The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. To be in the place of someone.
Be in your shoes.
To lose one's nerve, become suddenly anxious.
Freak out.
An instance of spending the night as a guest at another's home.
Sleep over.
To request a date.
Ask someone out.
Suppositional, uncertain.
Hypothetical.
Put in a mental hospital.
Commit.
Rumor or talk of a personal, sensational, or intimate nature.
Gossip.
To join in marriage.
Get married.
To have dreamlike musings or fantasies while awake.
Daydream.
A romantic meeting.
Date.
Let's try that faster. Suppositional, uncertain.
Hypothetical.
To join in marriage.
Get married.
Rumor or talk of a personal, sensational, or intimate nature.
Gossip.
To have dreamlike musings or fantasies while awake.
Daydream.
To be in the place of someone.
Be in your shoes.
Put in a mental hospital.
Commit.
A romantic meeting.
Date.
An instance of spending the night as a guest at another's home.
Sleepover.
To request a date.
Ask someone out.
To lose one's nerve, become suddenly anxious.
Freak out.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Ask someone out. When asking someone out, choose your moment carefully and practice what you might say in advance so that you don't appear tongue-tied. Ask someone out. I heard you asked your new neighbor out on a date. Ask someone out. I really want to ask Jeff out, but what if he says no? Freak out. Oh my gosh. I'm going to meet Justin Timberlake. I'm totally freaking out. Freak out. Why did you freak out when I told you I'd be late for dinner? Freak out. Don't freak out. We can solve this problem in 5 minutes. Commit. The judge had him committed to a mental institution. Commit. If you get committed to an asylum, can you eventually get out? Commit. He was committed to 50 hours of community service for his crimes. If I won $1 million, I would buy you a diamond ring. We wouldn't be so late if Nick drove faster. I would get a divorce if I were you. If it's sunny today, we will go to the park. If you study hard, you will pass the test. Mary will be very sad if Joe leaves.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode and learned something new. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. See you next time.